In today's episode, we discuss Rajasthan's move to roll back its decades-old two-child rule for local elections and why women's rights group in the state are critical of the move. We also take a look at Punjab, where the police have busted a Pakistan-backed grenade attack module operating out of Ludhiana. But we begin today by talking about how air pollution affects two of the most vulnerable groups, newborn babies and pregnant women. Hi, I'm Ichha Sharma, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. There's no denying that air pollution affects our bodies in countless different ways. Speak to any expert and they'll tell you that. For instance, if you ask a cardiologist, they'll explain how the particulate matter in the air triggers inflammation and oxidative stress. This damages the lining of blood vessels, raises blood pressure, and makes the blood thicker. All of which, over time, increases the risk of heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmias, and even heart failure. And even short-term exposure can be dangerous for people who are already at high risk. In fact, just last month, when the Indian Express spoke to a leading pulmonologist, they said that those who can afford it should consider leaving Delhi for 6 to 8 weeks, given how the capital has been recording extremely poor air quality day after day. But what happens when you can't leave a city like Delhi that is trapped under some of the most polluted air in the world? And what happens if you're a child born during this time of the year? To understand how air pollution affects infants and fetuses, my colleague Shashank Bhargava speaks to the Indian Express's Rinku Ghosh, who writes on health for the newspaper.
Rinku, among all sections of the population, infants are perhaps the most vulnerable to infections and diseases. So tell us, what do we know about how air pollution affects them?
Okay, so I'll begin with newborns, Shashank. And the thing about newborns, I was speaking to doctors and pediatricians, and they told me that they have been noticing a change in the neonatal units, say compared to 10 years before or even 5 years before. You know, infants are taking a far more longer time to be discharged from the nursery. And why is that? That's because their lungs are not fully formed. They are being born compromised with lung conditions. They have congenital defects, and the lung function itself is not stabilized. So a lot of pediatricians I have been speaking to tell me that, they need a longer post-birth care before they can be handed over to their parents and discharged from hospital. So that is the one big takeaway, which shows how extensive the problem is.
And for those who may not know, can you tell us how long do infants typically spend in the nursery? And how long are they spending now?
See, each child is specific. I can't say that the same discharge time applies to all. But basically, it depends on the child's functionality. So they check on all functions and then they discharge. So normally they would discharge within a time, all things remaining normal, they would discharge within 5 days. But now doctors tell me that they are being kept for about 10 days. 12 to 15 days, depending on the condition of the lungs, the functionality. So that's the time period we are looking at. And what is happening among pregnant women who are exposed to severe pollution is that they are at risk of giving birth to low birth weight babies. Sometimes they're having stillbirths. And some studies have indicated that the potential lung capacity of a baby reduces by 10 to 15%. So low birth weight, still birth weight rates are going up, in fact, among a lot of pregnant women. And miscarriages. Very many people think miscarriages are for a whole lot of reasons, which they are. But yes, air pollution is contributing to that risk.
Yeah, and the other thing is that these problems begin even before a child is born, right, in the fetal stage. So tell our listeners about that. How does the fetus end up getting impacted by pollution?
So when the mother inhales toxic air, so what happens is these toxic particles can cross the placenta. Now the placenta, you must understand, is a temporary organ in the mother which develops, and it connects the baby to the mother via an umbilical cord, right? So that umbilical cord is the route for the mother's nutrients in the blood to flow into the fetal bloodstream and nourish it. Now, what happens when the pollutants enter the placenta? So the placenta is a protective barrier. It protects the fetus from all the incoming toxins, microbes in the mother's blood. Now, because they are so small, they can penetrate this barrier. The placenta barrier is broken. Then what happens? The placenta gets inflamed. So once it gets inflamed, what happens? The blood which was flowing easily from mother to the infant, to the fetus, that is reduced. So the child is getting lesser nutrients, which means lesser immunity, lesser capability to fight back toxins while in the fetal stage. Then the blood vessels get damaged and there is reduced blood flow to the fetus. So what is going in? Nitrogen dioxide and sometimes aromatic hydrocarbons. This is something that we do not realize. All the wellness products, the candles, etc. Now these release hydrocarbons which enter through the nose of the mother and goes to the fetus. And all of this results in what? They impact organ development. Every kind of organ development, particularly the lungs. So what doctors have told me that this process leads to congenital heart disease, neural tube defects. Now, what are neural tube defects? Neural tube ultimately develops into the baby's spine and brain. Cleft palate. And some research has actually shown a link between exposure to high levels of air pollution during pregnancy and a higher risk of autism spectrum disorder.
So what you're saying is that because of the kind of things the fetus is exposed to through air pollution, it can have considerable long-term consequences.
Absolutely, into their adult years. Because if you're being born with a compromised lung condition, then surely you're going to develop problems. And not only lung, it is clearly impacting the brain. And another thing I must mention, something that we don't bother about as adults, is we may be eating chips from a packet, a lot of microplastics. Now they go into your system. It's going into the mother's blood. Now, these are called endocrine disruptors. That means they disrupt the functioning of the hormones. By extension, it's also disturbing the hormone functioning in the fetus. And the baby is born with those hormonal deficiencies or, malfunction. And that creates a lot of problem in the newborn baby. So it's all traced back to its growth in the womb as fetus and what is flowing from the mother to the fetus. And therefore, that is why doctors are saying that pregnant mothers fall in the very vulnerable group category.
And one of the things you write about is that a lot of soon-to-be parents, they're now actually spending time away from Delhi and only coming back for the delivery.
I must tell you, Shashank, about an interesting anecdote a doctor shared with me, gynecologist. She told me that young couples, they first asked the doctor, "Doctor, can I go back to my hometown for 8 months and do the follow-ups on a telelink or on Zoom or whatever? If I need to come, I will come. But can I stay at my parents' place or whatever?" So, or if it's not the maternal home, if it's the in-laws' home in some other cleaner city or town, they're moving there. So every couple, she said, was looking up their relative list. Who stays in a cleaner place? The good thing about all this is nowadays there are work-from-home options. So a lot of professional women are choosing that option during pregnancy, moving to these cleaner towns, staying there and coming to a city like Delhi for delivery. So they're trying to protect as much as possible.
And so in light of this, Rinku, tell us, what is the advice that doctors are giving to young and soon-to-be parents? What are the things that they need to keep in mind?
Yeah, this is a difficult choice because technically there are things that you can do, and I'm sure everybody is doing, which is now there are child-friendly N95 masks, but that is when the children are in the age group to wear them in the first place. Otherwise, there are, of course, advisories, keep them indoors where the air purifier is running 24 hours now, it seems. Make sure that the filters are cleaned, even if it is a HEPA filter with 500 plus AQI. what people don't realize is also maintain the indoor AQI, and that is something which we do not look at. So parents need to see whether the indoor AQI is okay. If it is not just the job of purifiers. Make sure you're not using domestic chemical agents. Things like cleaners, aromatic cleaners, incense sticks. Make sure in the polluted months you do not undertake any construction or paint job within your apartment, because that is where the radon, another gaseous compound, wafts in through the nose and causes a lot of difficulty. And this is what one of the doctors was telling me, that, we keep on refurbishing our home, repainting the walls, and these chemicals all release toxins. So apart from the pollutants which are floated in from the balcony, you are also adding a load of gases from within your apartment. Don't keep the wet waste lying around. They release methane. So these are small things really. And of course, don't go outdoors. Don't expose the baby to an outdoor environment unless it's subsided or it's in the middle of the day when the air currents have somewhat cleared out the pollutants. Play indoors. But these are all, what you can do within the limits of physical ability. But what parents really need to know is that children are more vulnerable to air pollution because they breathe faster than us. And a very important statistic that one of the pulmonologists told me was that they inhale more air per kg of body weight than adults. So, and because they are of a shorter height, obviously, they are closer to the pollutants.
Right, a lot of the pollutants, because they're dense, are much closer to the ground.
And these pollutants can penetrate, therefore, their lungs deeper. And what happens when these pollutants go deeper into their airways? They change the structure of the airways, creating a permanent kind of a lung, diseased lung, which they have to live with ultimately. So at this point of time, we can do these correctives, but obviously we need a policy level intervention to clean up the air. Because I can't imagine a child wearing a mask 24/7. An adult can't do it, neither can a child. A child's activity pattern, no matter how much you tell them to play indoors, you cannot expect children to do that indoors because they're naturally programmed to all their growth hormones. When they particularly kick in, they feel restless in the house. They have to go out and they need to be with nature. So we have to do something at the policy level. While these are small time measures really, and even if we wear a mask, what people tend to forget is mask is only blocking out the PM 2.5, PM 10, the particulate matter. What about the gases? Gases are actually even traveling through N95 masks, and we are not realizing that.
And there is also this persistent myth that if you're living in Delhi and if you're born here, you develop an immunity against pollution. And a lot of people also think that babies are born with a lot of immunity. Do doctors have to disabuse people of that notion?
Of course, I think this is the biggest myth, that children have a high immunity. No, they don't. When they are born, they have some immunity, which has come from the antibodies the mother has passed on during the birthing process and then through the breast milk, and the first breast milk called colostrum. That is all the immunity they get from the mother and the antibodies of the mother. The immune system is developing. It develops all through to the teen years. So now, just being born with antibodies doesn't guarantee that they have a high level of immunity. No, they don't. If anything, if they're exposed to pollutants in the fetus, their immune system is being compromised little by little. Because once they're out, survival instinct kicks in and they have to fight the pollutants all over again. They're not ready for it. It is something the pollutant means that the baby or the newborn is being subjected to a cruel survival battle the moment they are born. They're fighting pollutants, and that with an half-formed immune system. It is a total myth that babies have high immunity and exposing them to pollution means they will have a harder, stronger, robust constitution. No, that is so not true. If anything, it is just they are learning to survive with what they have, a compromised immune system.
And next, we talk about a population control measure that Rajasthan is now preparing to roll back. Nearly 30 years after the state first introduced the two-child rule for local elections, the government is now set to undo it. The rule, which was first brought in under Bhairav Singh Shekhawat's government, barred anyone with more than 2 children from contesting elections at the village or city level. But now, the Bhajan Lal Sharma-led BJP government has decided to amend the Panchayat Raj and Municipalities Acts. So to understand why this reversal matters, we speak to the Indian Express's Parul Kulshresthe. Parul, this two-child policy, which was introduced back in 1995, and Rajasthan wasn't alone in doing that. Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and other states had similar provisions. So could you talk about what was the law meant to do? And also, how effective were such laws?
So the rationale was to control the rising population of the state, because Rajasthan has always been one of the most rigid and very conservative when it comes to women's rights. There have been a lot of cases of, female feticides and all. So that was rampant in those times. So that was the reason that a government introduced these laws to control the population rise. And there was always a desire to have a male heir for the family. So to put a curb on that, as an example, they brought a law for the public representatives in the panchayati and municipal council, the urban local bodies, and also for the government officials who are recruited for the Rajasthan government. So that law was introduced for them.
Right. And so what exactly did the law propose?
So according to the amendment that was made in the Rajasthan Panchayati Raj Act and Rajasthan Municipalities Act, it states that a person is qualified for being the member of a panch, being the panch or the sarpanch of the Panchayati Raj, or being the member of any local bodies like municipality, municipal council, or municipal corporation, unless he has more than 2 children or she has more than 2 children. Now the law is that before the implementation of this act in 1995, if the person has 5 children, it is fine. But from the day of its implementation, the person cannot have the 6th child or the 3rd child. The similar law was implemented for the Rajasthan government employees that before 1985, if you have more than 2 kids, it's fine. But after that, you will be disqualified for being a candidate for the Rajasthan government services. But for the government officials, they had also introduced that later in promotions, they will not be given promotions and all if they have more than 2 children after coming to the services. But later on, it was relaxed. But only in recruitment process, you cannot have more than 2 children. That is a law.
Right, and now the Rajasthan government is preparing to scrap this policy altogether. So what exactly are the main arguments being made?
So one of the biggest argument that this has been proposed by various MLAs from all over the state of both the parties actually. So the thing is, in rural areas, it was very normal to have more than 2 kids, especially if the man has 2 daughters. He will always opt for, hope for male heir. So it is very normal in rural areas and in local bodies to have more than 2 kids. Although the number of children have gone down, because even in villages now, they are either opting for 2 kids, no matter the gender, or if the man has 1 son and 1 daughter, they are satisfied with that. So the mentality has changed from 6 to 7 kids. They have gone down to 3 or 4 kids. But the problem remains that there have been incidences where the minister was also telling me, Jabbar Singh Kharra, that there was an incident in a local body where the woman contested the election while she was pregnant and she already had 2 kids. The day of the election, she was elected as the panch, ward panch. And 2 days after that, she was elected as sarpanch. But next day, she gave birth to her 3rd child and she was immediately disqualified. So there have been cases like that, and government was in a lot of pressure. And they also said that a government employee comes into the services and their law has been relaxed in terms of promotion, but they come into services and they serve till their retirement. But a public representative is just there for 5 years. And anyways, the number of children that people have in villages have also gone down. So it is better to relax this law for the public representative. So that is the entire thing. And they have been pressurized by a lot of people, especially the public on ground. And both Congress and BJP are in favor of it.
And Parul, you highlight that women's rights groups and population experts have raised red flags about it now. So what are their concerns?
So a lot of women's rights group I had a word with. So they told me that when this rule was implemented in 1995, they actually objected to this. The reason behind, because in that time, it was not in women's hand to decide how many children she can have because of the social and financial status of the women. It was always in the hand of the husband and the in-laws to decide the future and the, how many kids that the woman can have or should have. So they at that time said that this is going to oppress women even more, and more female feticide will be conducted and they will be forced to have babies that they don't want to carry. That was one of the arguments. Now what the women are saying that some activists have said that this is actually a very difficult time for the women, because in rural areas, in some parts, it is still prevalent that women do not have that much right. But yes, the financial status of women have increased and the social status of women have also increased. So they say that this can happen in both negative and positive manner. But especially in the rural areas, now women will be forced to have more kids. Even though due to this law, men always had at the back of their mind that they should only have 2 kids or 3 kids, not more than 2 kids. Now they will be forced to have more than 2 kids. That was one of the arguments. One argument that Nidhi ji told me, the General Secretary of the Federation of Women, she said that BJP has been claiming or, making statement about Hindus having more children. So that can be one of the reasons that they are bringing these changes in the law, that they want to encourage the rural areas, especially to have more kids, to rise the population of Hindus. That was one of her allegations regarding this.
And what's actually interesting is that even the opposition, the Congress, hasn't strongly opposed the move.
Yes, that is a reason, because even in the past, both Congress and BJP MLAs have proposed about the relaxation of this law. So the Congress is not upfront about opposing this law. When I talked to the Swarnim Chaturvedi, the spokesperson of Congress in Rajasthan, he told me that we have a question that why BJP, when they brought the law during their government in 1995, they were the one who were very enthusiastic about it, and now they are going on back foot. So they should give the reason that why do not they have any trust on their own policy. But they are not significantly or primarily attacking the law. They are just saying that why BJP is going back foot on their own policy. That's it, because even they have so much pressure on their ground workers to make relaxations, and there have been proposals from MLAs of both the parties to give the relaxation in panchayat elections.
And lastly, Parul, what are the next steps the state will take to enact this law?
So what the minister told me that since the assembly session is not in functioning right now, so they will get an ordinance, get this law before the panchayat and state urban body election. So date of the panchayat and state urban body elections has not been announced, because the delimitation of all the panchayat samitis and urban bodies is ongoing, and they are actually very late. Even the High Court have asked them to wrap it up sooner, but they are actually very late, and they were supposed to conduct elections by the end of this year. But looking at the scenario right now, I think it will be conducted in the next year only, in 2026. And also they are also conducting election under the principle of one nation, one election, that slogan of BJP. So they will be conducting all the Panchayati Raj and all the urban body election on the same day in Rajasthan. So in that manner, they are waiting for it, and till the time that is going to happen, they will get an ordinance and get it passed. And later when the assembly session will start functioning, they will get it passed in the assembly.
And in the end, we shift our focus to Punjab, where the police have busted a Pakistan-backed grenade attack module. Yesterday, the Ludhiana police announced the arrest of 10 individuals in connection with what it described as a Pakistan-based ISI-backed grenade attack module. The accused were allegedly planning to carry out a grenade attack in a crowded area to create unrest in Punjab. Punjab DJP Gaurav Yadav said preliminary investigations revealed that the accused were in touch with handlers based in Pakistan through 3 operatives located in Malaysia. These operatives reportedly coordinated the pickup and delivery of a Chinese-made hand grenade intended for use in the attack. The case originated on 27th of October when police arrested Kuldeep Singh from Ludhiana's Basti Jodhwal area and recovered a live Chinese hand grenade, a black kit, and gloves from his possession. An FIR was registered under the Explosives Act, Terrorist Act of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, and later under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Kuldeep's interrogation led to the arrest of 2 more men, Shekhar Singh and Ajay Singh, both from Muktsar Sahib district. As the investigation expanded, 3 additional accused, Amrik Singh, Parminder Singh alias Chiri, and Vijay Singh were brought from different jails on production warrants. 4 others were arrested later for allegedly acting as couriers and facilitators. Ludhiana Police Commissioner Swapan Sharma said that red corner notices are being issued against 3 foreign-based masterminds identified as Ajay, alias Ajay Malaysia, Jas Behbal, and Pawandeep, all natives of Rajasthan and currently residing in Malaysia. They are alleged to have direct links with Pakistan's ISI and were coordinating with local facilitators Amrik Singh and Parminder Singh, who were earlier involved in drug trafficking. Police said Vijay Singh, the brother of Ajay, is lodged in Ganganagar jail in a separate NDPS case, but is now also accused of facilitating the grenade delivery network. The investigation has traced the delivery chain of the recovered grenade and its handlers abroad. Punjab police officials said that coordination with central agencies is underway to track the financial and logistical support channels connected to the module. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank, Bhargava and me, Ichha Sharma. If you like the show, do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. You can also recommend it to someone you think may like it, with a friend or in your family. This is the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcast or write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.